express the sadness and grief that brings me before you.
Anguish in Bristol.
Our community has been rocked.
3 police officers shot.
Our hearts are broken.
2 killed.
Wonderful, brave individuals. Sergeant Dustin DeMonte, hired in 2012. Officer Alex Hamzy was hired in 2014. Thank you for your service. May your souls rest in eternal peace.
Processions leading their bodies to the medical examiner's office.
We're united in immeasurable grief for those hero officers.
Black bunting now up.
Indescribable, overwhelming pain and loss.
Flags flying at half-staff.
We need your thoughts. We need your prayers.
The 3rd officer now out of the hospital.
Officer Alex Ayarato, hired in 2018.
1 suspect dead, 35-year-old Nicholas Brutcher.
Fatally shot and pronounced deceased at the scene.
And police say it looks like Brutcher lured officers here to this scene. It happened last night right here. This is Redstone Hill Road. You can see the police presence behind me there. They have been out there since last night. Our sources tonight tell us it was an AR-15 style rifle that was used. The sources also say 14 guns have been seized from that home. At 10:30 last night, police got a call to 310 Redstone Road in Bristol about a fight between siblings. When officers showed up, one of the brothers met them in the front yard and started firing. Our sources say he opened fire with an assault rifle. One of the brothers, 35-year-old Nicholas Brutcher, was killed at the scene. His brother, 32-year-old Nathan Brutcher, was wounded and taken to the hospital.
Shots were fired, fatally wounding 1 officer on scene. 2 other officers were transported to area hospitals. A 2nd officer was pronounced deceased, and a 3rd officer sustained serious injuries.
The man with the gun was killed, his brother wounded and taken to the hospital. Killed in the gunfight, 35-year-old Sergeant Dustin DeMonte, a husband, father of 2, with another baby on the way. 34-year-old Officer Alex Hamzy, a husband and 8-year vet of the force. Wounded, 26-year-old Officer Alec Ayarato. He had surgery and was released from St. Francis Hospital late this morning. Officers from around the state began gathering at sunrise, first for a procession with the body of one of the fallen officers from Bristol Hospital to the medical examiner's office. Then later, dozens more gathering to escort the body of the other fallen officer from the crime scene to the medical examiner's office.
Please keep Bristol Police Department and the officers' families in your thoughts and your prayers. And to all the law enforcement officers that serve this great state.
We have live team coverage tonight from this awful day in Bristol. We're going to start out with News 8's Mike Mascardelli telling us more about the officers who lost their lives here last night. Mike.
Yeah, well, Darren, behind us, there's a police cruiser in front of the police department where residents today have been leaving flowers and balloons. It's a memorial for the 2 officers killed in the line of duty. We've been seeing so many people stop by to pay their respects here, and the outpouring of support making it very clear these decorated officers were well-respected local citizens who served and protected this city of 60,000. Angela Provenzano, a Bristol resident, paying her respects at this memorial for the Bristol police officers killed in the line of duty. She was a close friend of Officer Hamzy, having gone to school together at Bristol Eastern High School.
He was an amazing person. He always had a smile on his face. It's just, I can't believe this is horrible.
Scary to think about that people are acting like this and doing such senseless.
Kayla, also in disbelief, another close friend of Officer Hamzy, getting to know him when they worked together.
Very close with some members of his family. couple of my friends were very good friends with him as well, and I used to work with him at the diner down the street. The Hamzy family they're wonderful people, and they don't deserve any of this.
Officer Alex Hamzy, an 8-year veteran of the department, was an advisor to a police cadet program along with Sergeant Dustin DeMonte, a 10.5-year veteran of the department. Bristol police say he was a school resource officer at Green Hills and West Bristol schools. He was a co-recipient of his department's 2019 Officer of the Year award. Bristol's police chief said he and his wife were expecting their third child. 26-year-old Officer Alec Iaruto underwent surgery on a gunshot wound at St. Francis Hospital. News 8 was there as police from across Connecticut applauded his release. This was Officer Iaruto's 4th year in the force in Bristol. In a statement, the Hamzy family said the outpouring of love, support, and prayers from so many is deeply appreciated. And the Bristol School District also releasing a statement this afternoon saying we offer our heartfelt thoughts and condolences to the families and friends of Sergeant Dustin DeMonte and Officer Alex Hamzy and the entire Bristol Police Department during this very difficult time. We wish Officer Alec Iaruto a full and speedy recovery. We're live at Bristol Police Headquarters tonight. Mike Mascadrelli, News 8.
Mike, thank you. Family and friends of the fallen officers not the only ones in mourning tonight. This entire community has been shaken. News 8's Tim Hartman continues our team coverage with community reaction. Tim.
Good evening, Darren. Well, as you just said, the community is mourning tonight. Neighbors tell us that they are in shock and the grief is undescribable. Now, we've watched throughout the day while folks were bringing flowers and food to the makeshift memorial outside of the police department. Driving through the area, we've seen curbside signs showing support. We spoke with customers at the Riverside restaurant who say Bristol is a tight-knit community that can feel like a small town.
It's a really big shock to be in Bristol and everything. I think it's very sad, and I hope that, you know, some type of justice is done.
I put the TV on, see the news, and when I heard about that, my heart just dropped. You know, seeing those 2 guys died.
Now, coming up at 6, we'll introduce you to the owner of this bakery and explain why she closed her business for today. We're live tonight in Bristol. I'm Tim Hartman, News 8.
All right, Tim, thank you. Governor Ned Lamont addressing this tragedy in Bristol today as well. News 8's Tina Dittel talked with him today. She is live in Bristol tonight with that. Tina.
Darren, the flag here at the Bristol Police Department is flying at half-staff in honor of these officers. Now, I want to step out of the way for just a moment. This morning, the governor ordered all flags in the state to be flown at half-staff, and he also spoke of this tragedy during a meeting he had today with managers who work in state government.
They don't say what's on the other side of that door. They don't say, well, maybe not now. I don't know if I'm safe. They say, my job is to keep you safe.
The commissioner of the Department of Administrative Services also called for a moment of silence during that gathering at the AquaTurf Club in Southington. The governor spoke to reporters outside, where he again commended the Bristol police officers for their heroic actions responding to that 911 call. News 8 did ask him about reports that an AR-15 style weapon was found at the scene.
Yeah, I have not heard that yet.
If that's the case.
There are too many guns out there, too many illegal guns. I hope people have a strength and appreciation for what our police do. I hope when you see your policeman, woman on the street corner, you go up and say thank you for what you do.
In a statement, Bob Stefanowski, the Republican candidate for governor, also honored the Bristol police officers and recognized all law enforcement, saying, they deserve every ounce of our support and every ounce of our respect. A tragedy like this reminds us that we need to ensure the safety of our police officers as much as we need to protect the residents they serve. Now, Governor Lamont, as well as the Lieutenant Governor, Susan Bysowicz, plan on attending the vigil here in Bristol in just a few moments.
The state preparing to say goodbye to 2 police officers ambushed and killed in the line of duty. Tonight, sources confirming new information to News 8 about the investigation.
They were innocent police officers just trying to help.
An exclusive interview with Bristol's mayor.
I was panic-stricken. There's no playbook for this.
And the support pouring in for a police department.
Completely overwhelming.
And community living through some of its darkest days.
We'll move forward. The days will get better.
Tonight we are learning more about how that awful night unfolded in Bristol and the gun that was used in that attack.
This as processions are underway for both of the officers whose lives were cut short. We have team coverage for you tonight. Mike Mascadrelli with more on the show of support from law enforcement for the fallen heroes. Tim Hoffman has how the community is pulling together in a time of tragedy. And Dennis House exclusively speaking with the mayor of Bristol, which you just saw.
First, though, News 8's Jody Latina has an update from investigators. She is live for us in Bristol tonight with the latest. Jody.
Darren, we're in front of a local bar here, and sources close to this investigation tell us that the two brothers at the center of all of this had some sort of altercation at this bar earlier in the day. It resulted in one of the brothers having their car towed and getting a summons from police. Now, the office of the chief medical examiner confirms to me today that Bristol Police Sergeant Dustin DeMonte and Officer Alex Hamzy both died of multiple gunshot wounds. Their deaths have now been ruled homicides. Multiple sources also tell News 8 that the suspect, 35-year-old Nicholas Butcher, had an AR-15 semi-automatic weapon, which we can confirm was properly registered with authorities. Now, the medical examiner has also ruled Butcher died from gunshot wounds to the neck and the spinal cord injury. His death has been ruled a homicide as well, and sources close to the investigation tell us it was Officer Ayurado who landed the shot that killed the suspect. As the community mourned the loss of Bristol Police Sergeant Dustin DeMonte and Officer Alex Hamzy, the picture of what happened the night in question remains murky.
And I just heard one of the police officers screaming, put the gun down, stay down. So I just threw myself on the ground.
State police investigators say preliminary information appears to point to the original 911 call being a deliberate act to lure law enforcement to the scene at 310 Redstone Hill Road in Bristol. Authorities say someone from the Tiny Brick Cape called police to report a case of possible domestic violence at 10:29 Wednesday night. Sources close to the investigation tell News 8 this was an ambush. Neighbors tell us there were several rounds of rapid gunfire, and they saw SWAT teams and police canines surrounding the home.
I believe that it was calculated. I believe that they were ambushed, and they were innocent police officers just trying to help.
State police major crime detectives say officers immediately encountered a suspect outside the home and shots were fired. Officer Alex Hamzy died at the scene. The chief state's medical examiner said Hamzy was shot multiple times. Sergeant DeMonte was rushed to Bristol Hospital, where he later died. The autopsy report shows DeMonte was also shot multiple times. Both deaths are being ruled homicide. Investigators say the suspect, Bristol native 35-year-old Nicholas Butcher, was shot and killed at the scene. Butcher's young brother, Nathan, was also shot. He was brought to St. Francis Hospital in Hartford. A third officer, Alec Ayurato, was released from the same hospital for his gunshot wounds. He is lucky to be alive and is pivotal in trying to piece together exactly what happened that night.
We're terrified because this is crazy.
Sources close to the investigation also tell News 8 police were called to this local bar earlier in the day. A car belonging to one of the brothers was subsequently towed. It's unclear tonight whether the younger brother of that suspect was involved in what sources close to this investigation are now calling an ambush. We don't know of any charges against that younger brother at this time. He does remain in the hospital tonight. Now, sources tell News 8 that more than a dozen guns were seized from that home. Coming up at 6, what high-level investigators are saying about this incident tonight. We're live in Bristol. Jody Latina, News 8.
All right, Jody, thank you. These are tough times for city leaders in Bristol.
News 8's Dennis House was in Bristol exclusively talking with one of them. Dennis.
Yeah, Ann and Darren, Mayor Jeff Caggiano is facing a challenge mayors really aren't trained for: the sudden loss of 2 officers in a horrific ambush in his town. Mayor, how did you learn about what had happened that night?
Yeah, so on October 12th, I got a call from Chief Gould around 11:30 in the evening, and he had stated to me, "Mayor, sorry for waking you up, and this is a bad one. This is a bad one. I'm heading to the scene right now."
Within a few hours, the chief updated the mayor. 3 officers shot, 2 dead. And when the mayor heard the names, he was heartbroken because he knew Alex Hamzy from the torch run.
Always smiling. They've never seen Alex not smile. Alex and I ran the whole 7-point-something miles together, and they were training for their Central Region Emergency Response Team.
We'll have much more with Mayor Caggiano coming up at 6 o'clock, and how you can help the officer's family. You can also watch the entire interview this Sunday morning at 10 on This Week in Connecticut. Ann and Darren.
All right, Dennis, thank you so much. The procession for Sergeant Dustin DeMonte took place this afternoon. His body escorted to the North Haven Funeral Home.
News 8's Mike Mascadrelli is live there with more. Mike.
Well, Darren and Ann, the massive procession for Sergeant DeMonte went by us on Washington Avenue roughly an hour ago, ending right here at the North Haven Funeral Home. Now, during this procession, much of the North Haven community came out to honor DeMonte, a Bristol police officer and resident of this town, one of 2 officers saluted tonight here in Connecticut. Now, this first procession for Sergeant Dustin DeMonte, beginning from the office of the medical examiner in Farmington, made its way to 84, Route 9, 91, Route 5, before passing through Washington Avenue. Along the way, we could see many U.S. flags as police and military vehicles led the way in the escort. Friends and neighbors watching the procession with us in North Haven told us Sergeant DeMonte lived just down the road from the funeral home. The community praising his impact as a police officer and everything he did, and they're vowed to support his family.
But we are just here to show our support, as they always have our support or our back.
A well-respected police officer, the loss of a well-respected citizen who was admired by many people in this community, the tragedy of this situation, and my own anger over the situation. This community will rally around this, and this family will always be taken care of here in North Haven.
And the procession for Officer Alex Hamzy is set to begin at 6 p.m. over at the office of the Chief Medical Examiner. Be sure to stay with News 8 for continuing coverage as Connecticut honors these 2 fallen Bristol police officers. We're live in North Haven. Mike Mascadrelli, News 8.
Another woman from Bristol, Tammy Nolan, has started a drive to collect donations for Sergeant DeMonte's wife and the baby on the way. Nolan has a son who's autistic. She tells us that DeMonte, who was a school resource officer at his school, always brightened up his days, going out of his way to give him a high five, get him off to a good start. Nolan said her son was devastated to hear what happened to his friend.
When I picked him up from school today, he asked, "Why do these horrible things happen? Why are there people like this in this world?" I can't imagine as a mom to lose the person that you love, to have to bring a child into the world without the person that you love.
Nolan says people can come by her place on George Street anytime and drop off donations. She's looking for things like formula, clothing for a baby girl, diapers, and toys.
A final farewell to 2 heroes.
There are those that are good, those that are great, then there are those that are exceptional. We lost 2 exceptional Bristol police officers.
Sergeant Alex Hamzy and Lieutenant Dustin DeMonte.
Both shot and killed last week in the line of duty.
October 12th, the day the world stopped in Bristol.
Words cannot express the grief we are experiencing.
Processions bringing their bodies to Rentschler Field in East Hartford for a funeral today.
Sergeant Alex A. Hamzy, loving son, brother, husband, and friend.
He was a generous,
kind, caring, and thoughtful person. We love you, Alex, more than life itself.
There are not enough words for me to describe my love for Alex. He is my hero, my protection, the love of my life, and of course, my heart. I love you, Alex.
Lieutenant Dustin DeMonte, 35, of North Haven.
He was our rock. He was his family's rock. He was everyone's rock. I love you, brother. I miss you already.
Dustin, my love, babe, pain in the butt. The kids and I are honored to call you ours. You loved us so hard.
Thousands of people packing the stands, including a sea of first responders from all over the country.
Bristol, all units be advised, this is the final call for Sergeant Alex Hamzy, badge number 245.
Lieutenant Dustin DeMonte, 221, this is the end of your watch. May you rest in peace. You are 1010 for the final time.
And we have team coverage for you tonight. News 8's Catherine Hauser starts us off live from East Hartford. Catherine.
And the funeral service was more than 2 hours long. It was emotionally raw with beautiful tributes to Lieutenant DeMonte and as well as Sergeant Hamzy. But the most powerful moments that we noticed were when family, friends, and coworkers shared personal stories and memories.
Sergeant Dustin DeMonte and Officer Alex Hamzy are the epitome of excellence. We will cry together for Dustin and Alex because we will miss them terribly.
A time of immeasurable grief at the joint funeral in East Hartford for two Bristol police officers, 35-year-old Lieutenant Dustin DeMonte and 34-year-old Sergeant Alex Hamzy, killed in an ambush attack just 9 days ago.
Since last Wednesday night, your family has grown exponentially across the state and across this nation to include hundreds of thousands of law enforcement officers who love you and care for you deeply.
Before a sea of blue and loved ones, both officers were posthumously promoted to lieutenant and sergeant. Soon after, another show of support for the sole surviving officer in the attack, Officer Alec Ayurato.
Officer Ayurato maintained courage and composure and delivered a surgical strike which immediately stopped the act of killing.
The most heart-wrenching moments came when the family spoke, starting with eulogies from Alex Hamzy's father, then cousin and wife.
I was not sure I would be able to speak about our son today, but I wanted to make sure you know what type of person Alex Hamzy was.
He was a generous, kind, caring, and thoughtful person.
There are not enough words for me to describe my love for Alex. When I see his badge, it is not just a number. It signifies honor, and it has my ultimate respect.
A raw moment of pain and anger over how Alex died came from his father-in-law.
Hatred should not have taken him away. This is the byproduct of hatred.
Friends of Lieutenant Dustin DeMonte described him as a force of good, a devoted father, husband, who always put family first.
Dustin was the most pure soul from day one. Unmistakably gentle. Like many of us here, I gravitated towards his friendship immediately.
For those of you who did not know him, Dustin was the best of the best. He was the most honest, kind, sincere person that you could have ever met.
Dustin, my love, babe, pain in the butt. The kids and I are honored to call you ours. You loved us so hard, and we felt that love every single day.
There were so many powerful moments. It's difficult to quantify, but the big takeaway here is that show of support and how it's going to help these families start to heal. We are live in East Hartford. I'm Catherine Hauser, News 8.
In addition to the thousands of officers who paid their respects today, the public was there as well. News 8's Sarah Cody has personal stories from outside Rentschler Field.
Amongst the sea of blue were small acts of kindness as thousands said goodbye to Lieutenant Dustin DeMonte and Sergeant Alex Hamzy.
We've got the best police force ever.
Pat Stebbins arrived at Rentschler Field early this morning, determined to pay her respects to Lieutenant DeMonte, who helped out with Brian's Angels, a program supporting the homeless, named for Stebbins' son.
Lieutenant DeMonte introduced himself to me when he was Officer DeMonte, December 25th, 2015. And it was just the sweetest thing. He had 10 envelopes, $50 in each envelope. I presume it was from the Bristol Police Force for me to give to our needy.
Here I am today to do a release of some doves for the two fallen officers of the Bristol Police Department.
Craig Fletcher waited outside during the emotional service and felt much emotion himself.
Just kind of hit me right then. I said, you know, I'm going to run home, grab these birds, and do a release.
He let his birds go as the procession left Rentschler Field, a symbol of respect.
I would say love, family, relationship.
Today we're working to ensure that our families of the first responders and other first responders are fed after the funeral services.
Wanting to keep the crowds cared for and comfortable, 19-year-old Haley Falk handed out free food. The 19-year-old from Cheshire founded nonprofit Because of the Brave to honor first responders.
Definitely very emotional, especially having my dad be a police sergeant in Cheshire, so it definitely hits home a little bit.
I believe the whole country has shown up for Bristol Police, and they deserve to be shown up for.
Now, we do want to note here that Fletcher does expect his birds to return home. Now, everyone we spoke to today was just so inspired by the love and support and kindness that they felt today, and they hope that it continues and spreads into the future. In East Hartford, I'm Sarah Cody, News 8.
These were two absolutely incredible human beings. They did not deserve what they received. And we hope that their model and example of sacrificial service will be reflected in the lives of every officer who observes this ceremony. And as a result, their pattern, their memory, and their legacy will continue on and never die.